We're modeling a regenerative property syndicate within a blended finance stack within a regenerative development project of 50 units. It's it's the same project in Queanbeyan that we went through um, using light living system frameworks and really sort of understanding the nested position of this project within the wider town and the larger water catchment area. So then we modeled the lowest rank on the blended finance stack on the equity stack was the cooperative, and used a simple triad to understand different ways that this could come together regeneratively. And so now we're looking at the next run of the investment syndicate and what's unique about it and how does it contribute in a regenerative way to the project and to the people that are investing in it. So what's unique about it? Unsophisticated investors, up to 2 million per year. It's an equity investment. Unique community. Local investors, most likely, just the way it structures, and restricted numbers. So you can have 20 a year, 20 in 12 months for $2 million. And so within regenerative development, we're really looking to understand the essence of something and work towards its potential all the time. We see things as whole living beings. And so this investment syndicate is a whole living being within itself. And before, we always work in a co-design session with people um, and the community. But before we start, we need to start with something. We can't just sort of come swinging in. So we sort of do a pre-engagement, like the design process, to give us some idea of what we're coming with. So working with potential, rough framing light pass. The things I pulled out about a property syndicate is um, out of all the stack, it's the only specifically restricted community. So that makes it a little bit different. And the unsophisticated investors, where the co-ops were as well, but that was only $10,000 to $20,000. This is 20 people putting in 2 million, so anywhere up to 100. But what's unique about that is then they most likely don't have money as their highest value. The highest thing that they worry about is probably not money and being unsophisticated. And so when you have 20 people that have varying values, that's a really unique thing to put all those different sort of perspectives in one safe container to operate with. And they're most likely the most localized group because the co-op can be far and wide. It's a very cool structure. Anyone in the country from marketing could be putting some money in, and it's light and easy. The sophisticated investors, they're used to investing in a state for projects that stack up. This is the most likely group to be contained, local, so really vested interest in this project, where the money goes, what happens with the project. These are the people that are either working with you or against you when it comes to councils and all the rest of it. So that's a really unique structure. And so regeneratively, where they are going to be nested within the blended finance stack, I started to see that they really could operate as this really unique skunkworks project to the side. So within regenerative development, we have this thing called resources. It's where you imagine like you have mentors or business coaches or consultants that sit outside. They have no vested interest in it. They're going to get paid anyway, and they just give you advice that could or might not be best for you, but they're getting paid. But a resource is someone that is one of you that steps to the side and solely focuses on developing their own capacity to develop everyone else in the team. Like their role is a developmental role separate to help others, and it's a really beautiful, unique thing to be working on. Um, and so, how I sort of saw that going was like the co-op, this regenerative um, project resource team will be nested within the project within Queanbeyan, but they'll also be like outside the project, resourcing the other investment stacks as well, the other investment communities, resourcing the project team on the work getting done, but then stepping outside again within their own community most likely and resourcing, bringing the lessons and the values that come out of the work and the project, bringing it into community in new ways and new orders of raising regenerative capability in the town. And then this again, stepping out one step further into the water catchment area. So these are the people from community that will be joining other environmental groups, other people working on river systems, other like, so they'll be able to create these threads of regenerative capacity and capability and consciousness all threaded out through this water catchment area. So it's a really specific, really unique, and really beautiful role to be taken on by people. And and so it's like, all right, we create the container that's technically an investment container, but we can think of, again, this investment up to 100 grand, it's probably not going to change the world over compounding over 40 years. Yeah, but what will really change their world is what we do inside this container as this really unique group developmentally. Um, and like I've just sort of expanded on, um, the returns they get from investment is going to be completely shadowed by these people developing their own consciousness capability and capacity to be new roles, be new thought leaders, and new community leaders, and who knows what businesses and things come out from these capabilities. So within the container, I decided with this one just a model to go with Carol Sanford's the self-determination theory of knowledge framework. So this is from her book No More Gold Stars. Genius, genius. But I think it's the best work. Others have different ideas, but it's Carol, so she's amazing anyway. So a tetrad from a triad is how you map a living being, but a tetrad is more how you map a process, and it's how you hold the complexity of all of life from an outside awareness way where we are spotlighting creatures and get lost in the weeds. So it works from ground to goal, with the direction in mind. So it's where you come from, your next best step on the way to where you're going, and the tools you need to get there. So this framework is really, it's quite deep actually. In the sourcing mind, it's not just like, okay, so we got this group of people. It's not just where they've come from. It's like, where have they sourced their thinking from to get where they are now? So like, it's the evaluation of the social programming and everything and all the values that they've ever held. It's like a total opening up of the head and investigating, well, why do you think like that? What's this? What's that? And everyone getting to that, not just to get to the bottom of where they resource all their stuff from, but more of so that they develop the capacity to understand how to help others source their thinking. So it's a very, very powerful start. Um, Systems intelligence, the next best step is like on the goal. Yeah, the next best step is understanding that living systems have an innate intelligence, and that if we harmonize and we respect and we consciously work with living systems and understand their intelligence, then we will be best guided on how to move next. So it's bringing ourselves back to the living world, back into the conscious moment, and then going from there, as opposed to um, we've got a problem with affordable housing, we need to build more housing. We've got a problem with the river, we need to clean the river. All these problem solutions that perpetuate more problems. The direction, the time binding, so that is our ultimate unique potential as a species. So if you think of Alfred Kovispis, I've got to get his name right, is like plants are energy binding creatures. Um, Animals are space binding creatures, like they bind place together through movement, and humans are time binding creatures, meaning we bind time through the eons, and we tell it through our story and through our culture. That's almost like our evolutionary process as a species. So that's our highest unique potential of what we can aim towards. So if we're always aiming towards that, and our next best step is to work through more living systems and understand the innate intelligence of nature, it's a good sort of way to be it's a good source to be coming from. And the last one, long thought process. This is the instrument, this is the tool. So that's again coming back to every single individual. We are all unique. We've all got our own unique genius in our core process. And when we understand and do the work to understand our core process and our unique essence, we can then look towards our own potential. And within all this work, it's not prescriptive. We've got this job to do. It's like, how can I flower in my own genius through a long thought process, being like the one Carol calls it like a profound question, that thing that drives you, that you all your work sort of It's the coat hanger that you hang all your movement on. And mine is it really, within this field of regenerative development, how far can we go? Like, how far can I evolve me and the field of regenerative development as a form of conscious civilization design? I don't know if I'm going to contribute anything, but every single thing that I do, that's what I'm working towards. So, like, more specifically, how that might play out. This would be a co-design session, but this would be a good frame that I would take to the people. So, starting with sourcing mind, and this is directly out of Carol Sanford's book. You get this; it's genius. So, yeah, a process to challenge the thinking so that we can see in you. So, things like starting with conscious shock, which is like an example I had on a project. We were talking, we were a mix of businesses and just community people, and I mentioned something like, we're not crazy developers, but everyone wants, their business to grow so we can feed our family. And this one woman said, "Oh well, I'm not a capitalist." And I went, "Oh, that's great. Do you want a pay rise?" And she didn't get. She's like, "Ah," and it was that thing of, I get paid by my entity, you get paid by someone else's entity, but we both want to get paid more. And that was that, the addressing the cognitive bias so people can re-evaluate their thinking. Examine premise, examine the foundational beliefs. So really unpacking the box of your the nurture, really your nature and nurture. Question authority. That's in a world of best practices and certifications. This is why we're so against certification within the field of regenerative development. All this generic, flattened, lifeless, entropic structures of this is the generalist way to do this totally just kills, it just de-lifes anything of living and real value. So don't do any life-denying stuff. Let's deal with the real living system. Socratic questioning. This is really to develop the it's developing the questioning of yourself. So it's that whole thing of, if I tell you something like I'm telling you now, it's just you won't retain the knowledge. But if I ask a question of you and you come up with the answer yourself, that's when you have self-sourced. This is the self-determined theory of knowledge. It's like asking the questions so that you can come to your own conclusions based on your life experience in the real world. And so that's our role, to be more question takers. It's a bit hard through this. Disrupt certainty. So that's decoupling your knowledge from your identity. This is super important. So like, if you're one of those really clever people or high education or got lots of certificates or letters after your name or any of that, um, if your identity might be tied to that. So if someone like me comes along and goes, like, why do you think like that? So no, well, that's how we do it. It's like they've identified with the thing, so it's very hard to let go of that, and so it's very important to find that. And self-assessment. So that's really the ability to self-evaluate. So it's like with this team, it'd be like working through a certain map. Oh, Michael, what do you think of this? Be like, why are you asking me? Like, why does it matter what I think? What do you think of this? And what are you judging yourself against as the criteria, and why? Sourcing thinking. So that's that. That's where they come from. So where they're going with the system intelligence, this is like the being state of how their next best step of evolution of how they take this into the project, this pattern of way of being. Living systems intelligent who will guide our way of evolution. So systemic frameworks. This is all our living systems frameworks, and it's way of our breaking mechanical thinking. So we're very linear, we're very engineering, we're very um, step by step. We've got two forms of awareness, humans. We've got that wider awareness where we see and hear everything all at once. But then when we need to think about something, we spotlight right in. And it's that spotlighting that means we miss all the context and the richness and the life of and the relationships between the thing we spotlight on and the rest of the world. And so you have fragmented the world through your attention and your intention to do something. And that's going to perverse the outcomes from being cohesive with a living system, a living design. Make it specific, don't categorize, see the living being. So this is like, if you're talking about like an 8-year-old child is like, an 8-year-old boy running around going crazy. Carol gives a really good example of this. It's like if you're thinking of the 8-year-old boy, you're thinking of like, oh, it's intense. It's a lot of work, isn't it? It's like, yeah, but what about little Johnny? Oh, little Johnny's beautiful. No, it's so unique, and so it's like, don't dehumanize, don't de-life a thing by categorizing it. See the living thing in everything that you do, and that's like a lesson to live by. Work indirectly. So force creates um, unpredictable results. This is I need a lot of work at this. So it's the difference of like forcing a situation is kicking in the door and getting splinters in your eyes, where all you had to do was knock on the door and the person will do the work for you, and they'll have chosen it, and you will be welcomed. It's a it's a much better way of understanding and living and working with natural systems. Trust life experience, better to examine and reflect on lived experience. So that is this. Get rid of the expert. Like there's no experts. There's no experts in this field. It's also so tap into your lived experience, because that's that not categorizing thing of like how things should be, best practices and everything. It's really like, no, this is what happened in the living moment in my living life that I can directly reflect on the lessons in life. All the best lessons that you really get is from your own experience, and it's the thing you're most in touch with, the living moment, which makes it real. Imagine image life at work. So don't imagine. So in regenerative development, we don't imagine, we don't do future visioning sessions or any of that, because it's just like, that's just sci-fi. What we look to do is like, now understand here. I'm imaging to understand how to develop this place. I image sitting here and feeling the wind and understanding the patterns and the way the sun goes. It's really that permaculture thing of observing and orientating from the whole living being, and then working with that image of life evolving into its potential in the future, not just some fantasy thing that everyone comes together and thinks it's a great idea through unreflected on social programming from a capitalist system that's bound their genius up. Humanity's role. This is really important. If you think that we are the problem, then we're going to be the problem. Like, if you think humans are keystone species that have the most unique potential to evolve the diversity and density of this Garden of Eden, then that's what we can be. Hold that. So time binding, I get. So yeah, human consciousness has potential. Like it's exactly that. Humanity's role as keystone species, we have the most unique potential to be the whisperers of the universe through time, and to hold that story through the eons. So to build the capacity of our own, this is really all of us, each individual and then the group, of building our capacity as time binders. Um, Smooth seas don't create good sailors. So it's like, don't codify, don't never do the same thing twice, never um, structureize more than you have to. Like, here, this is a light frame, but don't prescribe. So every project's different, and that's how you're going to evolve and get the most life, or the most pulse of living moment in the design that you're doing, because it's totally unique. The river isn't the same river when you touch it twice. Actualize and potentialize. So that's again development through direct work. So it's like, don't develop yourself from a book or from the thing. Use the book as a guide to help you see, reflect on your own life experiences, your own essence, and and guide a path that you charter yourself. So there's no thing outside of yourself that you should be becoming. Living oral traditions. So that's really just touching base on Indigenous thinking, wisdom, and knowledge, and particularly relating to time binding. It's seeing time differently. The past, the present, and the future all is one, and planning in 500 generations, planning and just understanding that you're weaving with the original, the whole living being of the place that you're in and the living moment. And don't be scared to, like, don't be scared to be a culture, even if you're a white male or whatever you are. Like be like step into this. There's so much fear and white imposter syndrome and white guilt and all sorts of stuff. Like just get involved, be open-minded, and see how rich this path will will develop you. Um, Form developmental communities of practice. So that's just like, don't do it alone. Like this, we're putting this group together. It's hard, it's tough on your own, unless you form a group. Now there's Regen Places network across all these communities, regenerative communities. Form your own, build your own. There's plenty all around the world, people doing all sorts of shit. Learn to see levels, fundamentalist. So like number one, like see the whole living being. Number two, see nested living beings. That's exactly what this is. The living being are these groups inside the living being of the place of the project, including the way that we're developing and our relationships on it, town things. So it's like nested systems that are all in relation to each other, like one reciprocal breathing evolutionary chain. Married development to doing. So it's like, if you're going to do this, go all in. Just like I call it regen dev as a way. It's just like, just go all in. Just do this. You will never be the same. It's incredible. And this is the long thought process. And this is where we would help the group develop their own, find their own essence, a bit of personal work and journey to go on. And just seeing humans contribute best to the world through their profound questions. So you, no matter what you do and all the crazy shit that you're thinking, um, none of that shit is going to be as good or as beneficial to the rest of us as you understanding yourself and finding or creating a space around yourself for you to develop into the best version of yourself and contribute you to the world. That's how you can be the best for all of us. And ways that you can do that, like really unique ways to look at it. So we look at semantic language. So our language, all languages have different restrictions and different feels, and our language might be a bit of a doing language. And what you want to do is start to feel language loosely. So like we've got this thing with the triad work is like, say I feel like I am a person that really loves putting communities together. And I like to develop their capacity regeneratively. So where I might be a community building educator, if I say to you, community building educator, you're like, yeah, person in community and educator like school. See how you formed an opinion on what I mean, but that's not what I mean from a regenerative development perspective. So for me to break that wall that we've got in between us communicating is, I might say I'm a communitying educator, and you're like, what the fuck? And you're like, think about it. I am a communicator, a communion, and it's when we have that dialogue and that tougher sort of breakdown of language, we have that deeper understanding where we actually communicate heart to heart, which is important. Resource the quality of thinking for each other. That is what this whole thing is about. Like just holding each other and helping each other ask these right questions. Scheduling and recurring rituals of development. So that's just like that community of practice work, but around your long thought process and helping others develop their long thought process to keep us on the path, a bit of accountability and things like that, and structuring the ritual. We are storing creatures, but we are ritualizing and ceremonial creatures as well. So when you do that, you're kind of tapping into something more as well. It wasn't done through every indigenous and ancient culture for no reason. Do you know what I mean? We evolved. There's something about the energy of that that I don't understand, but it seems to work. Work from lived experience. Again, like that conscious reflection of during your long thought process, it's not, nothing outside of yourself is part of your long thought process. Um, it's your own endeavor and your evolution of yourself on that path in a direction that's meaningful to you. Examine first, so don't bank unexamined knowledge or ideas. This is important. We've got all people that we love, especially when we come into this field. we all use the same terms and all weird language, and we're weavers and we're talk about essence potential. I still do it. And it's because we came in a form of rhetoric because we hadn't had enough experience. So the same as any new endeavor, you pick up the words and the knowledge and the thinking of other people until you test it in the world. And as you test it in the world, you shift it and shape it, and then it becomes actually real and it becomes your own. So bring it in through your own experience and understand it through that. Question anything that you've ever been taught, test it in the field. We test everything in the field. Everything is a premise on, I don't know. I don't know. That sounds like a good idea. Let's try that field. Let's go. Become imperturbable. So it's like conscious intention to challenge and destabilize ourselves, like safely with each other, but really throw yourself in the deep end. Find a community that'll help you swim, not just sink, but really keep on that edge of discomfort. And so if you imagine that this is like, this is just, again, I don't know, just test it in the field. This could be an incredible little investment syndicate that come together in this amazing regenerative develop capacity that not only develop themselves, develop the project, their own finances, but they develop other teams all on a combined journey to see the best in this region. They develop the town. They bring all this knowledge into the local water catchment. Who knows where this could go? It's like it's an expanding way of being, and I just thought this was a really unique way of seeing that within a wider investment stack. And the next one, so that was co-ops, investment syndicate, and the next one will be sophisticated investors, which will be another different vibe.